Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
Exploring the unexplained,
breaking down barriers,
putting the macabre under the microscope,
dissecting the disturbing,
seeking out the sinister,
bringing you the jinkies and the jump scares. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 9 of Freaky Fridays, and today we are discussing Dia de los Muertos.
Yay! I'm so excited for this one.
I need to preface this whole episode by saying that I'm so sorry if I'm butchering the Spanish language.
I'm there with you. I will try my best pronouncing some of these words, but I am definitely not going to do it any justice.
I think I'm just going to stick to the English equivalent on most things, so we're just going to call it Day of the Dead from now on. But yeah, I know for a fact that Megan is super excited about this topic.
It's such a beautiful holiday, and I really, really wish we celebrated it.
I know, so do I. That's the thing. Like, when we were doing research about it, there was so much where I was like, this is such a beautiful way to celebrate the lives of people you've lost, you know? Like, I mean, we have our funerals and stuff where we speak about the memories, and it's just not quite the same.
No, not at all. My whole life, I've been absolutely obsessed with just the way they celebrate this holiday and their outlook on death. I mean, Mexicans don't view death as something that's sad, but they view it as a day of celebration. Especially Dia de los Muertos, because it's a day that their loved ones awake and celebrate with them. And it's beautiful.
No, it is. And I mean, it's not like this whole somber affair. It's very like, you know, celebratory, and that's the great thing about it. And I think you should
that's the whole aim. It definitely is.
You should be celebrating the people's life rather than mourning it, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. So another day originated several thousand years ago, actually, the whole holiday, with the Aztec, the Toltec, and the Nahu groups, which was actually quite interesting to me. And they also considered mourning the dead disrespectful.
Oh, wow, okay.
And they saw that death is a natural phase. It's probably, apart from life, one of the only things that's for sure.
Yeah, it's like it's part of the whole circle of life
thing. It is,
thing.
It is.
Trying not to break out into like a song from The Lion King, talking about the circle of life.
and the members of the community, they keep alive the memory of the people who've passed on and their spirit. And I think upon the way they see it, or what I believe is how it originated, was upon dying. They believed that the person would travel to the land of the dead, and there they would have to get through 9 different challenges.
Oh, wow.
Before they could pass on to the final resting place.
Life is a challenge in itself.
Exactly.
Do we really need to carry on?
And this journey of these 9 challenges would take years. So, which is why this festival originated, because the family members would then provide food and water and tools to try and help their deceased ones in this difficult journey. And that inspired what is today the Day of the Dead holiday.
Yeah. But I mean, it's called Day of the Dead, but does it not range over like a couple of days?
It ranges over 2 days, November 1st and November 2nd of every year.
Yeah, I thought it was something like it was like either 2 or 3 days.
So because it's so close to Halloween, I know a lot of people think of the Day of the Dead as the Mexican version of Halloween, which it isn't.
It's really not.
It really is. They have a similar theme, which is death. And I mean, there's some maybe shared traits like costumes and berets, but no, Halloween is a night of terror and mischief.
Yeah.
And the Day of the Dead is a festivity that is full of color and life-affirming celebrations. So there is, I know it bugs them that people think it's a Mexican Halloween. It is most definitely not.
Yeah. I mean, I could be completely wrong on this, but as far as I know, the whole thing with Halloween of the trick-or-treating and the giving out candy is that was sort of put out as an offering to keep spirits away.
Exactly. And this is the exact opposite, because family members will leave out food and other offerings for their loved ones on the graves and on altars they'll set up at home. And this is to actually lure their family members back to them during this holiday so that they can spend time with them and celebrate with them.
And is it not, I'm pretty sure I read something about on those 2 days, or during those 2 days, the veil between the living and the dead is very thin.
Well, that's what they believe, and
Yeah.
that's why this holiday exists. They believe over those 2 days, exactly as you said, the veil between the living and the dead is thin, which allows their family members to enter back into this world and spend that time with their family.
Yeah, that's lovely. I really love that
I
idea.
really do too. And I'm in two minds. I really wish we celebrated here, but I don't know if we would do it justice. I think it's the whole Mexican culture, is
Yeah.
how they view life, and it's just their belief system in general.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, there are a lot of holidays that are celebrated all over the world that we just don't celebrate here.
Exactly.
Like Halloween's not a big thing for us.
No, not at all. In fact, like a few years ago, it was like a joke to even think we would ever do something like that, especially where I'm from.
Yeah,
It's
same.
not, you do not celebrate Halloween where I'm from.
Yeah, I mean, like in the States and stuff, Halloween is sort of like this. It's targeted towards children, and I feel like here you get more adult Halloween parties than you do
Definitely.
like trick or treating and stuff like
Definitely
that.
do.
So there's a lot that we don't celebrate here that I wish we did, and Dia de los Muertos or Day of the Dead is one of them.
Exactly. So as I said, there's actually quite a few symbols related with the Day of the Dead. One of them are calacas, which are skeletons, and calaveras, which are skulls.
Yeah.
And people will normally wear masks or paint their faces to resemble a sugar skull.
Yeah, which are those are so beautiful.
They absolutely are. I think they are stunning.
Decorated so beautifully. Like you take something that's used in cases for things like Halloween and horror and stuff like that. Like a skeleton's meant to look scary, and you can actually make it look so beautiful.
That's what the whole thing with the whole holiday. I mean, even just the altars they set up, as I said, they'll set them up in their homes, and they'll go to the graves and they will decorate the graves and they'll clean up the tombs. And
Yeah.
they actually take care of their dead,
And
which is what I love.
And I'm sure I read something that they actually go and like have picnics.
They do.
At
So
the gravestones.
it is, I think, the November 1st, the celebrations and the offering at the altars, which they call ofrenda, if I didn't butcher that. That's in their private homes. And then I think on the 2nd, November 2nd, they will take those celebrations into the cemeteries and they will picnic there. They will, some of the, I know in certain parts of Mexico, they will stay throughout the night. And
wow.
yeah, I think it's wonderful how they care for their dead and how they don't let them be forgotten.
Yeah. Well, that's something for me is like, I think a lot of people find graveyards and cemeteries very creepy. I always find them very beautiful, and one of the saddest things to me is that so many of the stones and stuff just get abandoned and
The decay
crumble.
starts showing. Exactly.
Yeah,
they
there's-
definitely they look forgotten, and it's sad, and it's yeah.
And that's the thing, we should be celebrating the lives of the people we've loved and lost, and
I agree.
you know, just take a bit of care.
So on these ofrendas, they'll put things like water, which is supposed to help quench the thirst of their deceased ones after the long journey into this world. They'll put food, they'll put family photos.
Aw.
I know they'll put a candle for each dead relative. And this one's a bit sad, but if it's a child spirit that they'll be putting things out for, they'll put toys on the altar.
Aw.
So it's all about putting things out that the deceased would have liked and that's catered towards them. And then one of the main things is marigolds, the flowers. The flowers they put everywhere are marigolds.
Again, another really stunning part of Day of the Dead that I love is like the sugar skulls and the flowers. I think they look so stunning.
Well, I didn't
together.
know until recently it was marigolds, so that's put a whole different perspective on the ones in my garden.
Yeah, I thought they were carnations. I'm not gonna lie.
But marigold petals are said that to help guide the wandering souls back to their place of rest. So,
Oh, I kind of love that.
Sometimes I believe they'll put some incense up, which just helps transmit praise and prayers, and also helps purify the air around the altar.
Love me a bit of incense.
So they really go all out, which I really do love. And then there is they've got this thing called the literary calaveras. So calavera means skull, as I said earlier. But what they do with these is they normally short humorous poems, which they had in the 18th and 19th centuries. And the poems were often like sarcastic tombstone epitaphs.
Okay.
Yeah. And those were normally published in newspapers, and they sort of made fun of the living.
Okay.
And they became so popular that it became one of the traditions of Dia de los Muertos. And it's another practice to say, to like sort of hype up being alive and well. But yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. They have these clever, biting poems, which they broadcast on television and put in newspapers and even on the radio.
I love that for some reason. I've never heard of it before, but I absolutely love that.
So do I. And then there is the Calavera Katrina, which is actually what the whole Sugar Skull thing is based off of, because there was this cartoonist in 1947. I believe his name was Diego Rivera, and he, in the newspaper, put a stylized skeleton in one of his cartoons, and the skeleton was of a female skeleton dressed up in a large feminine hat, and I think he named her Katrina, which is slang for rich, and the whole joke was sort of, I think, a jibe at the rich and just again at the living. And I think his whole point was that underneath were all skeletons. But it became so popular, and she became the main face of Day of the Dead.
That's why like a mascot.
Exactly. That's why the whole Sugar Skull thing exists.
Oh wow. Okay.
So Katrina is sort of the mascot of the Day of the Dead.
Okay.
And then you get the food that they bring out. I know there's pan de muerto, and that's the bread of the dead, which is that's a kind of sweet bread.
I love the rhyming going on. Bread of the dead.
What I like is that they decorated it with bones, like skulls and bones on top of it, just also made out of dough.
I thought you meant like implanted in the bread.
Definitely not.
I was like, that's a little gross.
I believe they also will make little dough teardrops to symbolize sorrow. You have your sugar skulls, which they actually make, and they'll put those on the altars as well as giving them to people. And then there is all the different kinds of drinks, most of them alcoholic.
Oh, yeah.
I might butcher some of these. I know there's one specific one that keeps coming up called pulque, which is a sweet fermented beverage. And there's a tole, which is a thin warm porridge. And even things like hot chocolate, apparently.
Oh, okay. I'm there for that party.
So, then they have these things, and I love this, and this was done so well in a Disney film called Coco.
Yeah.
They have something called papel picado, which I think it's actually, especially in the opening sequence of Coco, you guys should go check that out. That's a beautiful movie representing the Day of the Dead.
Okay, I have to say, I haven't seen Coco yet. We were actually just discussing this before we started recording. I haven't seen it yet. It's sad, no? Everyone I speak to says that they cry when they watch it.
I think it's just beautifully done. I'm obsessed with films that take on the whole Day of the Dead thing.
Yeah.
I think they've done it beautifully. They do, I think they do it justice. Also, the Book of Life, beautifully done. But that papel picado is basically paper that they take chisels and they take punches, and it's basically like paper that's decorated, but just because they've punched out all these different patterns in it.
So essentially like, what do you call it? Like, when you make snowflakes and you cut out?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It's exactly that same kind of thing. And the artists who do it will stack like colored tissue paper in dozens of layers, and then they'll perforate it with hammers and chisels.
Oh, wow.
And they'll make these different images and patterns. I think they drape it all around the altars and in the streets. And what it represents is wind and the fragility of life.
Oh.
I really like how there's so much. There's
so much symbolism
Exactly,
as well.
so much symbolism. There's so much effort that goes into it. And I think there's different variations of how it's celebrated all throughout Latin America.
Yeah.
But there are a few, from all over, what I believe it is something they gear up for all year long.
Yeah.
Then there's sugar skulls that we keep talking about, and now I'm talking about the actual candy that they'll make.
Yeah, I was
going to
ask about that. What is it made? I mean, obviously sugar. Let's not be dumb. But is it like marzipan or hard candy?
I think it's just they described it as a clay forms made of sugared candies.
Okay, so maybe kind of like marzipan or fondant or something?
I would imagine something like that.
Yeah.
And they'll place all of those around their ofrendas for their loved ones. I think in some cases, especially for children, they'll put the name of the deceased on the skull, on the head of the skull.
Yeah.
Then, as we've spoken of, there's the Flor de Muerto, which is flowers of the dead, and that is the marigold. They say that the vibrant color, because it's that really bright yellow, and the scent of them helps attract the departed souls as they return.
Okay. I thought it was just to look pretty. I was like, oh, those complement sugar skulls really well.
They do. And then, they have a saying, like, our dead are never dead to us until we have forgotten them.
Oh, wow.
Which
I
is
love
like,
that.
I think the whole theme in that Coco movie. You should really go and watch it. But I do love that as well.
I don't know if I'm ready for the tears of Coco.
It'll be fine.
If I know that I'm going to cry, I don't set myself up for that. But I mean, obviously I've seen like trailers and stuff, and it does look like a really beautifully done movie.
I loved it.
Yeah. No, I know you. You love anything Day of the Dead themed.
I do. What's amazing to me is that it's a really expensive holiday. And I mean, a lot of these families are celebrated are self-sufficient and rural-based indigenous families.
Yeah.
Apparently, they'll spend something like 2 months' income to honor the dead. Like 2 months worth of income just to put towards this.
Yeah.
And what's very cute is that all the food they put out, they'll go and make whatever the favorite of the people who have deceased is, and they'll put those out. And some of them even believe that spirits can take the essence of that food with them, which I love.
I don't know. I don't know if you came across it, but I saw something about even the food that they make, that they leave out as an offering. They do end up eating it afterwards.
Yeah.
So,
I guess if it hasn't gone off in that time, I guess so.
Because, I mean, I imagine if you didn't, there'd be a lot of food waste.
I'm sure, and they can't I don't think they can afford any of that, so I would believe that they would eat that.
I'm sure it was in that part where I read that they go have picnics and stuff. I think a lot of, maybe not all of it, but a lot of that food they do take and consume.
I would imagine, I would imagine so.
I could be horribly wrong. I will always say I could be horribly wrong with anything that I say in this podcast, but... yeah.
Oh, it's a nice, fun, colourful holiday. And the reason for that it is so colourful is because their colours actually have meanings. And as we've pointed out, it's not a day about mourning. It's a day about celebration and remembering the lives and the impact that these people had. And what's very cute is in their picnics they'll have around, just throughout the whole celebration, the celebrations will actually be kind of jovial and not sarcastic, but they'll make fun of and like joke about certain traits of deceased family members. And from what I understand, there's a lot of laughing, there's a lot of so I think that's really cute.
Well, I mean, I love that. And I mean, like, we can say we wish we celebrated it here, but it is a very cultural thing. And I'm white as a sheet of paper, like, very British. So it's not my culture, but I think the idea behind it is absolutely beautiful.
It is. It's keeping the people who are gone in mind, and just having the thought that even though they're no longer with us, doesn't mean that they're entirely gone.
It does. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be morbid.
You're keeping them alive in your hearts and in your memories, and it's a day sort of dedicated to actually just going and remembering them. Yeah,
I mean, I know I've always said that if I were to pass, well, I mean, we're all going to pass, but when I do pass one day, I would love for, I mean, obviously the people that care about me would be sad about it, but I would love for my friends and my family to get together, go to a pub, play my favorite music, and just laugh about the memories that you have with me, laugh about our inside jokes. Like,
I agree completely.
Don't sit there and weep over me. Like, go make fun of me, have a good time.
And aside from dedicating that time to family members who have passed, you also getting that time in with the family that you're living, because you're all coming together for that purpose. Yeah. So I think it's a really nice culture that brings together family and the importance of family a lot.
Yeah, so, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, obviously, you don't want to take someone else's culture and just, appropriate it, but you do. I think there's a lot that we can learn from it.
I definitely do as well.
And adapt to our own lives,
Agreed.
Yeah.
So as I said, with all the symbolism and meaning behind it, there's some more in the colors that they use. you'll notice with the sugar skulls they paint on their faces, or just the ones they decorate, I believe red represents blood, orange the sun, yellow represents the Mexican marigold, and then purple is pain, but in some areas they actually see it as richness and royalty.
Yeah.
And then pink and white are hope, purity, and celebration. And then finally black actually represents the land of the dead.
Okay. Makes sense.
so much thought and meaning goes into absolutely everything they're doing. They don't just paint because it looks pretty.
Yeah.
The colors are specifically
that complements
chosen.
that.
Exactly. And then, even the sugar skulls, as I said, that they'll give to other people. I thought that was a bit weird at first. I was like, you're putting these on altars of the deceased, and yet you also give them to some people who are alive. I think some people are maybe a bit offended by it if they're not used to it, but it's not their outlook. That's not what they're meaning at all. As I said, death is the only certain thing in life.
Yeah.
And what they're actually doing is they're not planning to off you. They're just thinking about saving you a spot in the next life. That's their way of doing that. They're sort of reserving a space for you. But to them, it's a beautiful gesture. And plans for this are made throughout the entire year. They start gathering goods and foods and things they're going to put up on the offerings way in advance. And before the holiday even hits, there's a 3-day period where families will usually go in and clean and decorate the graves.
So this starts like before this.
They start prepping for it way before, and they plan for it all year long. Like I said, I guess when something appears to them that they realize, this would be nice, they start collecting the offerings they'll put out. And,
wow.
Yeah. I also think it's a nice way to show how much they knew the people who have passed on, considering the offerings are so personalized.
And I feel like if you're spending the whole year, anticipating this event, you're constantly being reminded of the people that you've lost.
Exactly.
And you're always thinking about them because you're thinking like, oh, would they like that?
That's exactly what I love so much. And going back to that saying of theirs, our dead are never forgotten.
So, I mean, it's essentially a 2-day event, but it's actually an all-year-round thing.
It's their whole lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's why I say, I don't know if we would do it justice, but it's because the way they live and breathe. Some families will even put out pillows and blankets so that the deceased can rest after their long journey.
Oh, yeah, that's the way to do it.
And as I said, this isn't in all areas, but in some areas they'll spend all night besides the graves.
Okay. I don't think I could personally do that. But
for me, it's more the picnics. Would you be able to go and sit and eat a meal next to a grave?
I feel like I would, especially when that's like you said, it's like your way of life and how you view things.
I guess so. For me, like right now, in what I've grown up with, it would be some heavy full mouthfuls of food going down.
Trying to finish up ASAP.
Exactly. But yeah.
But I mean, it is like we've said though in previous episodes. We've said there's something about when it comes to the paranormal, let's say, it's not so scary when it's like someone you've known or.
It's true. It's a comfort.
Yeah.
Completely.
So I feel like that might kick in while you're having your Day of the Dead picnic.
No, I think if that's your whole life and your whole culture, I don't think it's weird at all.
Yeah. No, well, I've absolutely loved talking about this. I know you have too.
Me too. I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, but we have to wrap it up now. I mean, I could also talk about this all day, but do have to wrap it up. But next week, we're going to be talking about past lives, if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct.
Cool. I'm super amped about that one because I've got some pretty cool stories.
There's a lot of interesting stories that come from that.
Yeah, so make sure that you tune in next week, and we will catch you guys then.
Thanks for listening.
Freaky Fridays, hosted by Devin Beatty
and Megan Portnoy, and produced with the generous assistance of Janu Blau
and Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.